Welcome, everyone, to today's show. A boomer and a Gen-Xer walk into a bar, coming to you from the Rabbit Hole Studio, where we're going to take you as a listener on an experience of wit and wisdom, smartassery, and a mother and daughter questioning, are we even related? My name is Bobby Joy. My co-host is my mom, Jane, and we are here to entertain on a very decisive subject today.
Wow, and I cannot believe we're going to be talking about this subject. Because she's already warned me in advance that we are not going to be agreeing on much here.
Yeah, I've already cracked open one drink. So
Yeah.
here we go.
I'm not sure if you're the one who needs the drinks or if I do. So there we have it.
All right. So what's the topic, and how did this topic come about?
Well, the topic is sex workers and kind of the controversy surrounding sex workers.
She's had a
Maybe
few
I
drinks.
am the one who has been drinking. Sex workers. And how did this come up, Dr. Domain?
How did it?
Look at him, just look at us like, what? I don't want to say anything. I didn't bring it up. I had nothing to do with any of this whatsoever. How'd it come up, Dr. Domain?
You all started it.
What?
I just threw in the rock and roll piece. That was all.
I see.
yeah,
Sex,
yeah.
drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's all.
All
I was trying to
right.
keep it clean above the board.
Above the board.
Off the board, like we're making any money on this.
That is
Dear
funny
Dad.
right there.
All right.
So, Bob, what do you want to talk about as it relates to sex workers?
Well, let's put some parameters down first. So let's talk about sex work, and we're not talking about human trafficking. We're not talking about child trafficking. We're talking about legit sex work.
You're talking about prostitution. You're talking about pornography.
Correct.
Not child pornography. Oh, so Dr. Domain finally finds the button, doesn't he?
He sure did.
So we're talking about pornography, and we're not talking about child pornography,
Right.
Or any,
Nothing against your
beastology
will
or anything like that.
Yeah, nothing against anybody's will. We're talking about willing participants, adults, people who have chosen this line of work.
Right, who are engaging in the oldest profession
Absolutely.
that's known to man. So,
here's a question for you, pop quiz.
okay.
Do you know what United States state has the most sex workers?
Nevada.
Yes.
Las Vegas.
Yes, it's
it
Nevada.
is.
It is.
Yeah, because you can walk down the street and boom, there they are,
Now,
rubbing up against you.
do you know what the safest country in the world is for sex workers?
Switzerland,
No.
Sweden.
No,
Does it start with an S?
it does not.
Okay. What is it?
The Netherlands, the red light district.
Oh.
Yeah, because over there, it's an actual form of work.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And it's not as
Illegal.
lowly regarded as it is other places. And a lot of that is because they are consenting as adults. They choose that line of work. There are safety measures mostly put in place, things like that, to where, other parts of the world, not all that happens.
So in the Netherlands, then, to protect these workers, I assume that they have a lot of regulations in place associated with, how they do it, where they do it, how they advertise, that sort of thing. Do they have a lot of regulations in the Netherlands? I don't really know. I know they do have the red light district.
Right.
And I do know that, it's legal. You can kind of walk down there. But
Correct.
I would think that there's certain things that you still can't do right there in public, right?
Right. And it is the red light district, because they have the windows and things like that. You don't do it openly in the street. Of course, it's not an obscene
Right.
thing. But they have, it's legal, it's regulated. They're considered independent workers who have to register, and they also pay taxes.
Are they unionized?
They should be.
They pay dues.
They should be. And I'm going to tell you my stance right now. Sex work is legit work.
Sex work
Across
is
the
legit
board,
work.
if you are a willing participant, sex work is legit work.
Okay, well, let's talk about that because there is a lot of controversy surrounding sex work, and it stems, from deeply divided perspectives for sure. And some view it as a form of exploitation, primarily on women. Now, it's not that way today. It is both
Right.
men and women, correct?
Correct.
And other advocates, state that decriminalization of it is kind of a recognition of it's okay.
Well, and let's be honest, consenting adults, this is your choice. You're not forced into this. Like I said, we're not talking human trafficking. We're not talking anything like that. This is your choice of work. Why would we look down on that? I mean, in a way, we sell our bodies every day, whether it's to join the military, whether it's to go to a corporate job, whether it's to do manual labor. You're selling your body to somebody one way or the other. And if this is how they want to do it, why can't we allow them to do that? Why can't we regulate it? Why can't we put up, safety procedures and laws in place? Because a lot of these sex workers, they're called the less missing, the less murdered, the less kidnapped, because people just don't see them as an upper echelon of
Real
society.
people,
They don't see them as real
people.
people.
Yeah. And so
they make more money than most of us do. So
well, that's probably true. 'Cause I can tell you, I could go out and try it, and I wouldn't be making much. I don't think I can afford eggs at this
Good
point.
Lord, can we not put that image in my head right now? I'm your daughter.
So, but you
Jeez.
mentioned that you're selling your body. You're actually selling a service. So
Correct.
in some cases, yeah, I think you're selling your body. In other cases, I think you're selling a service that you're able to provide, whether that's manual labor, whether it's psychological labor, whether it's mental labor.
Either
whatever
way, it's
that
your
is.
body.
It is your body.
Your body, your time, choosing what you want to do. You're selling it to somebody to get that paycheck.
So to go on the other side of the coin, because I know where you're going to argue, I'm going to argue the other side has to do with exploitation and oppression. And proponents of this, really argue that sex work is inherently exploitive.
Exploitive.
Particularly for women. And, I'm just going to say right here, I think women exploit women. I think, if you're going to engage in that type of activity or that type of service, you're exploiting yourself. No one else is doing it to you. No one is forcing you to do it. Now, we could go into...
But how is that exploitation, though? I mean, it's literally... I guess I just see it as work. I mean, it's work. You're using your body one way or the other. I don't see it as exploitive if that's what you want to do.
Well,
I don't see it that way.
I think that the other part of it is it's the first step of manifestation into systemic violence for a lot of these workers. Now,
well, and that's because there's no laws. There's no
Right.
regulations. There's no protections for these men and women who choose this as what they want to do.
so do you think in the Netherlands they're more protected? Do you think
Absolutely.
that there's less murders of these type of workers? Do you think that there's less belittling and disgrace?
You see my smile, right?
Yes,
you
I
see my
do.
smile because you just hit on a point that I actually have pulled up. Yeah, they're more protected over there. They are because, and it's been kind of studied and things like that, going back to podcasts that we did before on my serial killer podcast. Serial killers target sex workers more often because they don't have protection. They're not regulated. They're not registered. Nobody's going to report them missing type of thing. It's easy pickings.
Yeah.
Get in my car. I want to pay you for sex. Well, nobody's going to know you're missing, or nobody's going to care that you're missing because you're in the lower echelons of this country.
Or no one wants to report it because at this point I know that I'm committing a crime, right?
Right.
In the United States, I'm committing a crime. It's hard for me to go report a crime of even rape,
Right.
Assault, murder, kidnapping, that sort of thing, because I'm already a criminal as a prostitute.
Correct.
And so it would be very difficult for me to go ahead and
rape is a huge one. People think that just because you sell sex that you don't have the right to govern your own body. And a lot of people out there think, well, you were at, generations old argument. You were asking for it. You dress like that. You're a prostitute. What did you expect? Well, come on, let's get some regulations. Let's get some laws. Let's get some protections for these people because they have the right to do it. I think that they have the right to do it and they deserve those protections. So if they say no, it's no.
So in the United States, of course, there's a question. It's very questionable as to whether there's a lack of true consent, because some of these girls and guys are out there selling their services, not only because they feel like they have to make money, but because they are coerced by other people, right? By controllers.
And that's more human trafficking.
Right. And so a lot of times they're coerced or, they lack the economic ability to get out of that type of work.
Right.
And so they face some hardships and other vulnerabilities, and therefore...
But a lot of that is because of lack of regulations and laws for these things. It's kind of like the marijuana debate. So, the government comes in and says, okay, marijuana is legal now. We're going to tax it. We're going to regulate it. We're going to make sure there's stores that have it. There's way more protections. You're driving out the underground sellers of this, the people who exploit other people to sell marijuana, because now it's legal and we have protections for them. It's the same as sex work. It really is, because once you have those protections, you're going to drive out those human trafficking, rings and things like that, because there's not going to be an issue getting the sexual pleasure from someone because it's not illegal anymore.
Yeah, and you already touched on it a little bit, the criminalization of sex work, they argue really kind of pushes sex workers who are assaulted, who are molested, who are raped, who are beat up, who are, into the shadows, which does make them more vulnerable to the violences on the street. And that's what I'm talking about exploitation, not necessarily... and trafficking. And so whether you're an adult or a child, you can be trafficked.
Absolutely.
So you don't have to be 12 years old to be trafficked.
No, it doesn't matter what you look like or your race or your size or your age. Anyone can be trafficked.
So let me ask you this. Based on what you're telling me, you don't see this as being harmful to society. Now, maybe it's harmful to society the way that we have it in the United States, but if we had regulations set up to protect these folks and have them provide a service it's kind of like supply and demand, right?
Exactly. Exactly. It is.
But some would argue that that kind of sex work kind of normalizes violence against women, particularly, and contributes to sexualization of children.
I guess I don't see that. Like I said, if it's a willing adult participant and there are rules and regulations, there's laws in place, it's going to cut down on all of that. I mean, it's going to pull that out of the pool, because now there's a brothel you can drive to. And, if you're talking about in this country, I think you're talking more about the moral issue of this country, how it's going to drag the morality down because there's a brothel on, 4 corners in a town. Listen, they're going to do it one way or the other. Okay, whether it's legal or not, people are going to cheat, people are going to lie, things like that. That is an issue in their relationship. I don't see this. I mean, honestly, right now, you're going to laugh at me. I would pay to get laid right now, because it has been a year and a half, and if I could find a safe and vetted place, I'm telling you it would relieve a lot of stress.
Check, please. Check, please. Can somebody pull the car around?
But it is. I mean, it's not just a marriage ruiner. It's not just a family annihilator type of thing. There is an actual legit market out there for people. And honestly, I think it would help with the incel problem that this country has.
The what?
Incel.
Incel.
You've never heard that term.
I've not heard that term.
It's basically these men that, I hate to put it this way, it's these men that live in their mother's basements that think that women owe them sex, and they're just, the women are just dirtbags. Well, I mean...
It could be women, too. It's primarily men?
It's men, and it's on the extreme to where, they're violent, things like that, because nobody wants to sleep with them because they're idiots. Well, I mean, if they could go down and pay a price and have a legit sex worker, take care of them, maybe they wouldn't be so mad. I don't know.
Maybe they wouldn't be so angry. Well, you had mentioned immortality and not immortality.
I was going to say, this isn't the Vampire Diaries.
No, not the Vampire Diaries. Morals.
Morality.
Morality.
Yes.
Sorry about that. And, the problem is we have so many immoral people right now on the streets that, it's like we can just do anything we want in front of anybody that we want. And so I really do think that the fear is, if I had a brothel on the corner, and I got kids walking to school, is there somebody out there on the corner with a sandwich sign on them going, hey, come on in.
Well, rules and regulations.
2 for 1. Yeah, rules and regulations, but we know how that works too.
Yeah.
Now, I would argue that it could be controlled, and I would argue that it could be regulated just as you think it can. Just because there's a church on the corner, I don't see everybody breaking the door down to get in there. Right?
Well, and I mean, you see more sexually explicit material on a, evening show anymore than you do anywhere else. These kids are exposed to it every day. And morals are a personal issue, in my opinion. Your morals, my morals, their morals, they're all different. Where we draw the line, where we cross the line, things like that. And so I
think that's another show right there.
I think it is.
Our morals and our principles and our standards, I think that's a whole other show.
It is.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. I got to be honest with you. I got mixed feelings about it because I don't like to see anybody selling their bodies, right? I don't like to see anybody using their body in that way. I mean, I feel we were created for a different reason. And so I don't like seeing anybody using our bodies in that way.
I could make that argument, though, for military people who sign up for the military. You're government property, and they'll tell you things like, if Uncle Sam wanted you to have a wife, they'd have issued you one. So, when you sell your body to the United States government for the military, they own you top to bottom, in and out, left and right, your morals, your values, your opinions, everything. So I guess I don't see it any different.
I think that, again, now my mind is going to moral standards and principles. I mean, that's what stops each of us from not killing, not being deceitful, not participating in thievery, all those things. And so you kind of go, is that for me? No. Is it something I would advocate? No. But I do see your point that if it's regulated and you're selling a service and we can protect people, listen, it's supply and demand. It's out there whether we like it or not.
Right.
It's out there. I'm not advocating for it, but I'm saying it's out there.
Yep.
And, the human rights part of it, whether you're a sex worker or not, you got rights. And unfortunately, in the United States, if something happens to a sex worker, and we already talked about this, it's almost like they don't have any rights. You don't have the right to talk. You don't have the right to say anything. You're a low-life, prostitute or whatever. Well, what about the guy that came out looking for her? Or what about the gal that came out looking for him? And so, like I said, I do kind of have some mixed feelings about it.
See, and I'm all for unionizing sex workers. Get them on the paper, get them on the laws, get them on the books. Let's start protecting these people, and let's make them no more or less than disappeared, no more or less than missing, no more or less than beat up. Because honestly, if that's their choice in life, and good for them. I mean, I'd love to make that kind of money.
Do you think that type of service, open and freely advertised, as it is in the Netherlands, is something that would lead to, sex trafficking of children? Do you think that it's
Like a
that far of
hypersexualization?
Yeah, I mean, it's
No.
not that far of a reach, Bobby.
No, I really don't, because you don't see, I mean, I guess I don't know, but you don't really hear about kids running through the red light district. You don't hear about, because of the regulations.
Sure.
I mean, there's a lot of things that we can do to protect them that will not catapult them into mainstream. I mean, we've got billboards for sex shops along I-80. I mean, the kids, what about that? It's not sex work, but it's a sex shop. What are you going to do about that with your kids? You say, okay, well, maybe you need to have the sex talk a little earlier with them, or, something like that.
Do you have, since you did bring up Netherlands and it is so prevalent over there as being legalized, did you take a look at all at their increased risk of sexually transmitted diseases? Because sometimes it's hard to get treatment, or
Correct.
It's hard to get preventative measures. Is it lower? Is the violence against sex workers lower in the Netherlands than it is in the United States? I don't know.
When it comes to STIs and STDs, it's becoming a problem everywhere, regardless of whether sex work is legalized or not. And especially, even here in Iowa, we have a severe outbreak of STDs that are being untreated and passed around. It's not just a sex worker problem. It's an everybody problem, and I'm talking even people your age and older who are going into retirement villages and things like that. There are heightened, instances of chlamydia and things like that being passed around.
Do you think that it would lower, because right now as a sex worker, you go in to get help and you're looked down upon, right?
And you could get regular testing. You could get, the public health would step in and say, hey, we have monthly testing. We have free condoms. We have, things like that would actually help them to stay safe and to not spread those diseases.
So did you know that New Zealand, they've decriminalized sex work, meaning it's not illegal to engage in sex work,
right?
But it's also not regulated,
right?
So they don't have anything to protect them. They really don't have.
And I think that's more dangerous than having it criminalized, just because it's almost kind of like a Wild West thing. You got no laws, no regulations, no protections, and the police aren't going to step in.
Yeah. Well, I know where you stand.
Yeah. Unionize them.
Unionize them.
Sex work is real work.
Yeah. Local union SEX 104 or 69. Oh, man, that was... Hey, you got to give me credit for that one. So, again, I guess I don't see it as, even I think about strip joints and stuff. I don't think that anybody is out there exploiting anybody other than themselves. If I choose to get on a pole, I'm exploiting myself. And so to blame men or other people for exploiting them, I think that's silliness. You're doing it to yourself.
Yeah, when we're talking about like the willing participants, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you're selling yourself. One way or the other, you're selling yourself.
Yeah. I guess from a respect standpoint, from I don't want to treat my body that way, and I have respect for what I was created as and who I was created after, because I was created after the perfect king. So were you. I personally would not advocate for it. Now, I see your points. Don't get me wrong. I see your points, because I think that it could bring some control, some lawful
safety,
some laws, that sort of thing, regulations, that sort of thing. But from my perspective, nah.
Yeah. I guess we disagree on that.
We disagree today.
I mean, I don't know. It's been, like I said, been a year and a half.
Is that something I needed to know? See, you talk about the things that I say.
Listen,
and
you're
you
all
go,
in my
I got a
business
visual.
anyways.
I got a visual on that. I can't get it out of my head.
That's because you're old.
Here comes Mom.
You're my mom. I have one sister. You've had sex twice, period. That's it.
That's right. That's right. And don't you forget it. Don't you forget it. Well, Bobby, that was good discussion. I mean, it really was. And I'm glad you brought it up. Maybe, our listeners have some comments related to it, and maybe they've had some thoughts associated with it.
Maybe they've been to the red light district and can tell us about it.
Or maybe they're sex workers and they would like to give their point of view.
Absolutely. No judgment. No judgment.
But maybe they're on the other side of the coin, too, and they're saying, nah, I really am not for advocating for that for sex workers, and we'd like to hear from both sides. And so, if you've got some comments or, anything you'd like to talk to us about as it relates to that, we're certainly open to hearing it and discussing it. And if you have another topic, we're open to that too. But we are going to get back to moral standards and values. I can tell you that.
And I'm not soliciting it, so please don't message me.
Wait a minute, you just solicited yourself after a year and a half.
I'm telling you, but no, thank you. Thank you.
I think that's all we have for today, and we appreciate you joining us here at the Rabbit Hole Studio. Be sure to follow us. We look forward to spending time with you each week. Please like us, and if you have some positive feedback for us, or you have a topic, we're really interested in your topics. It's not that we're running out of them, because, man, we just keep filling up on topic after topic, but we'd like to hear what you want us to talk about. But drop us a short email at boomerandgen@gmail.com. If you have hate mail, not so much. We'll take your constructive criticism, but we're not going to take your hate mail. We just turn that stuff off. So until next week, I'm Jane Burt.
And I'm Bobby Joy.
And you're stuck with us. Peace out.
Later.